Science Fiction University.
Hello and welcome back to Science Fiction University.
We're your fan and writer hosts. I'm Blue Gal.
And I'm Drift Glass. And we know it's been a minute, but you can still visit Science Fiction University at our website, sciencefictionuniversity.com. Now, we have folded our Science Fiction University portfolio into our vast media empire. So if you'd like to support this effort, just send us money to our professional podcast venue. And thank you very much for doing that.
If you're one of the people who's been wondering, hey, whatever happened to Science Fiction University? Well, here we are. The last time we were together is shocking. It was shocking to me. It was way back in early 2025.
Yes.
Specifically, January 2025. More specifically, January 21st,
The mystery deepens.
2025.
The mystery keeps dipping, Brugal.
Which you may remember was the day after a certain person was inaugurated as president of the United States for the second time.
Mm-hmm.
And the world at that time looked pretty dark.
And we looked it up, and we led off that episode with this 90-second clip from John Carpenter's 1988 cult classic, They Live, which was adapted from a 1963 short story by Ray Nelson entitled 8 o'clock in the morning. The movie was set in the distant dystopian future of getting very close to 2025, by which time the entire planet had come under the dominion of a global economic alliance of invading aliens disguised as humans and, of course, their wealthy human collaborators.
Our projections show that by the year 2025, not only America, but the entire planet will be under the protection and the dominion of this power alliance. The gains have been substantial, both for ourselves and for you, the human power elite. You have given us entree to the resources we need in our ongoing quest for multidimensional expansion. And in return, the per capita income of each of you here tonight has grown, and this year alone, by an average 39%.
And after that, it got a little difficult for us to focus on much of anything other than what was happening to our country right before our eyes as the Trump regime started implementing Project 2025 with a vengeance.
Yeah. And we're not going to revisit all the horror that's happened between then and now. But the thing is, we both love science fiction. We both love good science fiction. Let's be clear about that. And we both enjoy doing Science Fiction University. So damn it, it's time for us to stretch those muscles again. And today we're going to start off with 2 quizzes just for you kids. One is ridiculously easy, and the other one is sort of less so.
The first quiz is guess the theme for today. We're going to give you 5 audio clues, and if you don't figure it out, boy, have you come to the wrong podcast. Also, you'll have to pinky swear promise to cover your eyes and not look at the title of this episode because, there's a big clue there as to what this podcast is about.
No clues, as my late father-in-law would say, no clues, no clues.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
When he was doing the New York fucking Times crossword puzzle, he didn't want any hints.
No hints,
as to
no
what
clues.
The answers were. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, are you ready? Is everybody ready?
I'll take you off the police.
Hey, wait, you swore!
Trust me.
Trust me. I'm the doctor.
Trust me!
Trust. Who do you trust?
I don't know who to trust.
I know what you mean, Blair. Trust's a tough thing to come by these days. Tell you what, why don't you just trust in the Lord?
So how did you do? Before we continue, for extra credit, can you identify the source of each quote?
And no fair looking at the description of this episode
No.
to find out the answers ahead of time.
or using one of those fancy Dan audio lookup dealies they have on the Google now to look up the sound and going, yeah, I figured it out because I know it. But if you think you can guess each one of them and write them all down on a piece of paper, then send that along to us with $10 to our P.O. box.
In cash.
In cash, $10 American cash to our P.O. box. Now, I want to be clear. You won't win anything at all, but we will appreciate the untraceable cash donation.
We always appreciate untraceable cash donation.
We really do, Blue Gal. We really do.
No
That's
crypto.
What we're doing. That's really why we're returning to Science Fiction University. It's because it's the flood of money that comes in from
it's not.
No. There are 12 people listening to this, but I hope they're enjoying it. I
hope they're enjoying it. And you know what, Drift Glass, no crypto except Bosco coin.
Coin
that's
is the
only one.
It's the only coin we accept.
All right. So if by now, with all those hints, you've guessed that today's Science Fiction University theme is trust, congratulations.
Bully for you.
You guessed correctly. You are so smart.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So trust is the belief in the reliability or truth or ability of someone or something. It's the foundation of cooperative relationships that allow people to rely on each other despite the risks of uncertainty and vulnerability. Mm-hmm. It's also why when we take a Tuesday off, we get emails from a bunch of people wondering where we are because they trust us to be there.
Yeah.
Another example, Who Can I Trust? Was the tent pole that held up the pilot / miniseries and all 4 seasons of that really pretty good reboot of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Incredible. Yeah.
I had a friend, I was still working for the city at the time, and he came in and he had like TiVo'd it and put it on what we used to call a CD or a DVD and said, you got to watch this. And boy, was he right. It is amazing. And it still holds up. It's still quite excellent. Mm-hmm. So for the purposes of this episode, we're going to distinguish between the concept of trust and the concept of faith. Now, the distinction between the two is pretty subtle. We realize that. And people use the words slightly differently depending on whether they're talking about religion or philosophy or psychology or just everyday life. Today, our working distinction will be something like this. Trust is confidence based on evidence, experience, or demonstrated reliability, whereas faith is confidence that goes beyond what can be presently demonstrated or proven. So, for example, I trust my mechanic because he's fixed my car correctly for 10 years and has always charged me a fair price. Or I trust my friend because she's always kept her promises. Now, in both cases, trust is based on the track record. And when you think about it, works of fiction depend entirely on winning the trust of the audience. You know, in science fiction especially, I watched a thing with Ronald D. Moore about Battlestar Galactica. And he was very clear that because you were taking your people into an unreal world, Battlestar Galactica, he said he felt very constrained by Star Trek because they had a certain look and feel that felt distant from the action. It separated the audience from the action. He said if you're presenting an audience with an unreal or surreal world, you have to make it feel real. And that's why the camera movement was a lot of sweep and snap panning, a lot of out of focus stuff, like someone with a documentary camera was right there to make it feel more real and earn the trust of the audience so they buy the story.
Yeah. And there's a quote attributed to Mark Twain which captures the idea of narrative tension. Twain probably never said, Ulysses Grant writes so well, he makes you wonder who was going to win the Civil War. Any reader of Grant's memoir obviously already knows the outcome of the Civil War, but the writing is so compelling that the reader keeps turning pages anyway.
That's right, because it follows a basic rule of storytelling. Now, this is from David Mamet on what every scene in a play, in his opinion, must do. Quote, every scene should be able to answer 3 questions. Who wants what from whom? What happens if they don't get it? And why now? Unquote.
And it's not science fiction, but we are watching The Agency, season 2.
Boy.
And Driftglass was saying to me over and over again, see, that's following the David Mamet rule. Every scene is about that. Who wants what? Are they going to get it or not? If they don't get it, then what?
Yeah. And why is this happening right now?
And why?
Right.
Yes. Right. And there's tension because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see that a lot. Okay, so this is from Kurt Vonnegut, who, by the way, knows nothing about Kurt Vonnegut.
No, he knows nothing about Kurt Vonnegut.
If you watch Back to School,
Yeah.
you know what that line's from. But this is on the same subject, talking about writing fiction. Quote, every sentence must do one of two things: reveal character or advance the action. And Vonnegut also said this, quote, somebody gets into trouble, then gets out of it again. People love that story. They never get tired of it, unquote.
Yeah. It's so simple when he explains it simply.
Yeah, it's the perils of Pauline.
Yeah, exactly. and I forget, I was in some writing class. I forget who I was listening to. It might have been Harlan Ellison. It might have been somebody else who was making very clear. Every sentence in what you're writing has to, quote unquote, pull the plow.
Yeah.
If it doesn't pull the plow, get rid of it because it's not doing any good.
But it's such a pretty sentence, Driftglass. It's the prettiest sentence I ever wrote.
But you have to kill your darlings, honey.
You do have to kill your darlings. Yeah, yeah.
Now, what keeps an audience interested in any kind of story is the writer creating a question the audience must have answered. They desperately need to know, or putting the character in trouble, putting them in peril. The creator of Breaking Bad said his theory of how to treat characters is chase them up a tree and throw rocks at them. Which is great. That's a really visual and very compelling way of thinking about how always put your characters in danger, always put them in peril. Give them something the audience must know the answer to. And
I can't tell you how many times Driftglass and I watch TV and we look at each other and say, cherchez la femme.
Oh, yeah.
Find the girl.
Find the girl. It's
that's
everywhere.
Always, that is a major plot that can't miss.
Can't miss. Absolutely can't miss. And then the answering the question or getting the character out of trouble in a way that creates a new question or fresh trouble.
You
keep moving them through. By that means you make a promise to the audience and you pay it off. Then immediately make another promise. The audience comes to trust the storyteller and lets the storyteller lead them on act after act or chapter after chapter.
And Saul Goodman is a perfect example of somebody who continually got into a different set of troubles once one was solved. Yeah, yeah. Now, Faith, on the other hand, and thank you, Driftglass, for letting me talk about Faith.
Of course.
Is often what fills the gap when the track record is incomplete or absent. An example might be an astronaut having faith that a rescue mission will arrive, or a religious believer having their faith in their God despite not having empirical proof.
And I guess it's adorable. I think it's adorable that you think I let you say anything. In case you all don't know, the sound editor for this masterpiece is Blue Gal.
And I can cut anything I want out of it.
Anything she wants hits the floor. So now that we have Fiction Writing 101 out of the way, we're not going to charge you for that. That was a freebie. We're going to move on to our second quiz, which is a dramatic reading from a 50-page novella that was published in 1938. That was a year before the outbreak of World War II. Now, can you identify the story? So, excuse me. Here goes. Quote, the thing on the floor shrieked, flailed out blindly with tentacles that writhed and withered in the bubbling wrath of the blowtorch. It crawled and turned on the floor. It shrieked and hobbled madly. But always Macready held the blowtorch on its face, the dead eyes burning and bubbling uselessly. Frantically, the thing crawled and howled. A tentacle sprouted a savage talon and crisped in the flame. Steadily, Macready moved with a planned, grim campaign. Helpless, maddened, the thing retreated from the grunting torch, the caressing, licking tongue. For a moment, it rebelled, squalled in inhuman hatred at the touch of the icy snow. Then it fell back before the charring breath of the torch, the stench of its flesh bathing it. Hopelessly, it retreated on and on across the Arctic snow, the bitter wind sweeping over it, twisting the torched tongue. Vainly it flopped, a trail of oily, stinking smoke bubbling away from it. Macready walked back towards the shack silently. Barclay met him at the door, unquote.
So does that ring a bell?
Ooh, I know.
How about this one? Quote, no more, the giant meteorologist asked grimly. Barclay shook his head. No more. It didn't split. It had other things to think about, Macready assured him. When I left it, It was a glowing coal. What was it doing? Norris laughed shortly. Wise boys we are. Smash magnetos so planes won't work, rip the boiler tubing out of the tractors, and leave that thing alone for a week in this shack, alone and undisturbed. McCready looked in at the shack more carefully. The air, despite the ripped door, was hot and humid. On a table at the far end of the room rested a thing of coiled wires and small magnets, glass tubing, and radio tubes. At the center, a block of rough stone rested. From the center of the block came the light that flooded the place, the fiercely blue light, bluer than the glare of an electric arc. And from it came the sweetly soft hum. Off to one side was another mechanism of crystal glass, blown with an incredible neatness and delicacy. Metal plates and a queer shimmery sphere of insubstantiality. What is that? McCready moved nearer. Norris grunted. Leave it for investigation, but I can guess pretty well. That's atomic power. That stuff to the left, that's a neat little thing for doing what men have been trying to do with 100-ton cyclotrons and so forth. It separates neutrons from heavy water, which he was getting from the surrounding ice. Unquote.
And remember, this is 1938, before a sustainable nuclear reaction was conducted, or around the same time at the University of Chicago by Enrico Fermi, well before the detonation of the atom bomb. So science fiction writers all read technical journals. So they knew about atomic power. They knew the available, awesome powers of nature.
They knew what people were working on, too.
Yes, they did, which made them, in a lot of cases, as I recall, Isaac Asimov, maybe Heinlein got pulled in for questioning because some stories they were writing were really close.
The DOD came knocking.
Yeah, I think it was Heinlein who wrote a story about atomic dust being used as a weapon in Europe, and so the Führer's out there yelling on one day, and then the crowds are smaller, then the crowds are smaller, and then there's nobody in Berlin, and they came knocking, going, how do you know about this shit? And he said, technical journals, I read them. People like me read them. Scientists read them. And we can extrapolate from what we know. So this is about a creature from outer space, which has been buried under the ice for millions of years, which is partially thawed out by scientists at a research station in, I believe, Alaska. They found the alien ship buried under the ice, and when their best tools failed to make a dent in it, they decided to use thermite to melt the ice, which is a great idea, except thermite actually ignited the ship and blew it up. It destroyed it. So they hauled the body of a creature they found back to the lab in a block of ice. They found out too late that the flesh they cut away to study reanimated, and that, given enough time, the thing could consume and duplicate any living thing it came in contact with.
First, it tried with a dog, and was caught halfway through morphing into a duplicate of the dog. The other dogs attacked it and drove it off. Eventually, the scientists figured out what they were up against and what the consequences would be for the human race if it ever escaped into a populated area. Mm-hmm. They lock Blair in an outbuilding after he starts smashing equipment and destroying aircraft. And I got to say, there's a great scene because there's a noose hanging in the outcraft or the room where he's locked in,
but not in the short story that we're talking about.
No, not in the short story, in the movie.
What movie? What movie are we talking? There's no movie involved in this.
We'll have to talk about that in a minute. Mm-hmm. They work on coming up with a test using blood or serum, but they have very limited supplies, and none of them are professional chemists. Meanwhile, it quickly becomes clear that Blair isn't the only problem. The thing is loose among them. Might be one of them.
And so here comes the theme for today's episode. This is also from the story that we're quoting from 1938. Quote, "This expedition of 4 idea is going to make life happy." Benning looked at his companions, each of us with an eye on the others to make sure he doesn't do something peculiar. "Man, aren't we going to be a trusting bunch, each man eyeing his neighbors," unquote.
After a few days, they managed to track down and kill what they believe is the thing among them. At which point they've sort of forgotten about Blair locked in the machine shop. They go to check on him, and wouldn't you know it, Blair is also an alien duplicate. Well, of course he is.
Of course he is.
But because the alien is much smarter and more advanced than we are, it has spent that time in the shack doing a kind of a Tony Stark.
It's impossible. Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
It's built itself an atomic generator, some kind of death ray, and an anti-gravity device. And it was on the verge of escaping when the humans attacked it and killed it. So, before we go any further, we should warn you that this episode contains spoilers.
Yeah. Of a 1938 story and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, we've already spoiled John Campbell's original 1938 novella, which I'm sure you all guessed. But do you recall the name of his Who Goes There? And the title is taken from that age-old century challenge, stopping an approaching stranger and demanding that they identify themselves. So we're very sorry if spoiling an 89-year-old science fiction story ruined it for you.
Sorry.
If so, the management wishes to sincerely apologize.
There are spoilers ahead, and I gave one away, sorry, for the 2 movie adaptations of that story. There's the 1951 classic, The Thing from Another World, which diverges significantly from the novelette, and John Carpenter's 1982 remake, which bears only passing resemblance to the 1951 movie. For fun, Driftglass and I watched both these movies this past weekend. Also for the podcast.
Yes.
But that's date night for us.
That is. Because we're nerds.
And we're going to start to explain why John Carpenter's remake bears only passing resemblance to the 51 movie.
Yeah, it's really important about the period in which things were written. For example, the original Battlestar Galactica from the 70s was written during the 70s. The Battlestar Galactica reboot was written after 9/11.
Yeah.
And during the Bush administration.
Yeah.
And boy, howdy, did the time it was rebooted completely changed the context of the story and how it was told.
Absolutely. Just like all artwork, it's a product of its time.
Absolutely. Yep. We'll also be spoiling Murray Leinster's 1945 novella, First Contact, and the 2 different radio adaptations of that story. And finally, there'll also be a few spoilers for a little something called Project Hail Mary. Ever heard of it? Now, we'd heard of it, and we reviewed it back in 2024 on this very podcast, when it was just a mere audiobook that had won the 2022 Audie Awards Audiobook of the Year.
Yeah, and it's a good audiobook if you have seen the movie and want to spend some time, listening to something while you're bopping around this summer or staying out of the heat.
Yeah.
We can highly recommend the audiobook of that novel.
Because all books have more detail than every novel or every movie that's made of them.
And you can then see the choices that the movie maker made.
Exactly.
Basing it on the books. It's really a fun exercise. But we all want you to proceed with caution because you have been warned about all of the spoilers.
Spoilers ahead.
In this show.
So we're going to start with what all 3 variations on this story have in common. In all 3, the bulk of the action takes place in an isolated outpost in an inhospitable environment, the Arctic or the Antarctic, depending on which version. And it has to. It has to be in an isolated environment or there'd be no story. The outpost is initially manned by scientists. Sled dogs figure prominently in every version. There is something in the ice miles away. It interferes with compass readings and was located by scientists who are doing some sort of research. When the site is explored, there's also what appears to be the body of an alien frozen in the ice, and the body is retrieved and taken back to the outpost for further study.
There is a storm raging outside. Reliable radio contact with the outside world becomes difficult or impossible. We're isolated here, Driftglass.
Isolated, yes.
Isolated. And it turns out the alien is still alive. It escapes and, hijinks ensue.
That's right. Just everyone having a fine old time.
No.
But every one of those things, the storm outside, the failure of radio contacts, all are incredibly important for the plot. They all pull the plow of the plot.
Yep.
Now we're going to go on to the what and why of the differences. Now the novelette opens with a big exposition dump at the compound, like 2 pages of exposition. We are told that there are 37 people at the base. They're all male. Importantly, team members are not portrayed as military personnel and are not operating under military control. The expedition is a civilian scientific research expedition. The characters are identified primarily by their professions: physicists and chemists and engineers and doctors, meteorologists, pilots, technicians, and so on. But no military rank is ever used because these guys are not in the military.
Yeah, they're scientists.
Right.
Of different varieties. And that makes sense. Campbell was writing in 1938 before the Cold War, before giant military logistics operations in Antarctica, before World War II, before anybody imagined that the South Pole could be a strategic outpost.
Yeah. Or the Russians are just crawling around the poles. We got to keep an eye on them. We are told that whatever was under the ice before they accidentally blew up the landing craft had crash landed there millions of years ago, has been frozen under the ice ever since.
As the story unfolds, it's clear that the antagonist is the monster itself, or more specifically, whatever dog or cow or human being the monster has consumed and duplicated. Initially, there is some disagreement among the scientists as to whether to thaw out the alien body or not. But once the danger becomes clear, the danger to themselves and the whole planet, everyone agrees that the monster or monsters need to be identified and destroyed down to the last cell in its body.
Yeah.
Can't leave anything behind because it'll grow again.
It'll grow again. Blair, who's the expedition's biologist, figures out the danger first and calculates that even if a single infected person or a fragment of the creature reaches civilization, the human race could be wiped out in a relatively short period of time.
And acting on that conclusion, he begins sabotaging the expedition's ability to leave Antarctica. He destroys equipment and smashes the aircraft, making it impossible for anyone to fly the thing or an infected human outside the encampment. That's on purpose.
Yeah, on purpose. And the rest of the crew thinks Blair has lost it, so they lock him up in a separate shack for everybody's safety. You know, he's gone nuts. He's tearing things up, so they lock him away.
One of the clever, nasty ironies of Campbell's story is that Blair is both the man who understands the danger first and is one of the first major victims of the danger.
Yeah, because he's in prison, basically. He can't get out. When the thing comes for him, he can't escape. And later in the story, the men discover evidence that Blair has been secretly tunneling beneath the station and assembling equipment down there. They eventually realize that Blair is no longer Blair. The thing assimilated him sometime during his confinement.
The remaining members of the team institute an everyone watch everyone else protocol. Because who can you trust?
Exactly.
And so it's teams of 4, and they begin to realize that any one of them could be the monster. And they have no idea who can be trusted anymore.
Yep. And in the end, they figure it out and kill the last remaining threat, the duplicated Blair, just in the nick of time, because that's how stories like this have to end.
Thank God it ended that way.
Mm-hmm. Whew, it's a close one. That was a close one.
Yeah, that was a close one, Driftglass. So in 1938, a group of intrepid research scientists at the edge of the world overcome their justifiable paranoia and unite to destroy this threat to humanity from space.
From where, Blue Gal? Where's it from?
Space.
It's from space.
And the triumph of the white man is secure.
Yes. Well, and this theme you can find in The Blob, Alien on Earth consuming people. You can find it in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but not quite this way. And this was one of the original stories that sort of jump-started that subgenre of science fiction.
Okay, can I ask you, though, because there are movies like this that are clearly science fiction.
Right.
Because this creature comes from space. They make that very clear.
From space.
Second one.
Right.
We know this is an outer space creature. So that makes it science fiction. But it's also just a monster movie.
It is. It is.
And Creature from the Black Lagoon, for instance.
Yes.
We don't know that creature, we assume that creature is a biological creature from Earth somehow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That means it's not science fiction, I take it.
No, it's science fiction. No, this is, in fact, I believe this was billed, or at least it's written about as Howard Hawks, the famous producer, director. This is his horror movie.
Okay.
When he made this in 1951, it was this horror movie, but it's also science fiction. Because the question is, does this creature exist in the real world? No.
Okay.
Does it actually, is there something living under the swamps in the lagoon? No. Is it a man beast? No. So, Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yeah.
Doesn't go into space or has anything to do with space, but it's still science fiction.
It's still science fiction.
So anything that doesn't exist in the real world and that has got sort of a scientific gloss on it, that's the old version of it. The newer version is it can be psychological. It can be Inception, where it's just going into people's dreams.
Yeah.
All sorts of things qualify as science fiction. But this is definitely both horror and science fiction. Boy, howdy, when we get to the John Carpenter version.
Oh, yeah.
The horror part really steps up,
steps up, all right.
Yep. And the puppetry in that, well, it's amazing. But
amazing, yeah.
So now let's jump ahead to 1951, and Howard Hawks, as I mentioned, is the producer, and he has produced The Thing from Another World. And we open on, this is important, not an Arctic outpost full of scientists. That's not where the movie begins. We begin with a man in a topcoat and a hat, braving a blizzard and opening the door of an Air Force officers club at the Alaskan Air Command in Anchorage, Alaska.
It's crowded. It's convivial. No scientists and no monsters at all. One guy's reading and a few guys are playing poker. The man entering the club is Scotty. Scotty is a reporter. But he's greeted warmly by one of the officers because they knew each other during the war.
The war. And that's really important. World War II is still very fresh in everyone's memory. Almost every story the men share about their past over the course of the movie is about a battle they were in or something they saw when they were at war. And that's why they trust Scotty, because he's one of them. The scientist they're about to visit near the North Pole is famous for, quote, being at Bikini. Which everyone watching the movie would understand was he meant he was at the atom bomb tests at the Bikini Atoll. Also, the production of the movie began in October of 1950. Very important, which meant it was just a year after the Soviet Union shocked the world by detonating its own atomic bomb, codenamed First Lightning, at a test site in Kazakhstan. So the Cold War, which didn't exist in 1938 really in any way, was going hot and heavy by the time production got underway.
Yeah. By the time this movie's production got underway, it's Cold War season. It absolutely is. And the best science fiction from Frankenstein to Star Trek and beyond is always about the state of humanity and culture. Just like all artwork, it just comes from the time it's in, tackling big ideas, but also reflecting back to readers their hopes and fears through the lens of science fiction.
Yep. I would recommend to anyone out there Trek Politics with Mary Trump and Bob Seska, where they're breaking down most or all the episodes of the original Star Trek episode and talking about the politics of it and what the times reflected in each episode. And see, there's a lot of misogyny, but a whole lot more tolerance of different colors of people and different religions of people and how they viewed the future as it would look, but they were all stuck in 1965, 6, and 7. So their view of the future was shaped by the times they lived in. Now, this film was being made smack in the middle of the Cold War, the Red Scare, and the rise of McCarthyism. On March 21st, 1947, President Harry S. Truman signed Executive Order 9835, which launched a federal loyalty program that subjected millions of government employees to loyalty investigations and tests.
The House Un-American Activities Committee got going. Also between late 1950 and mid-1951, there was a clear shift in the public's opinion about the Korean War, from optimism to pessimism. Finally, that mad scientist trope, which had been around in science fiction since Mary Shelley's Frankenstein in 1818, which was the first science fiction novel. Isn't that right, Drift?
The first true science fiction novel. Yeah,
yeah.
We, all of us science fiction buffs, peg it to that date. Yes, we do.
This mad scientist trope got a boost in the post-war Red Scare McCarthyite atmosphere. There was a fear of men who cared more about experiments and making stuff in the lab than the danger to humanity they were creating. And distrust of reckless or dangerously single-minded scientists began to show up more frequently in science fiction.
And all of that shaped how the scientist-focused Campbell story turned into the military-focused 1951 big screen adaptation. Now, a couple more things to note about the opening scene. First, as the camera pans back, we can see two men playing chess, which we believe John Carpenter was having fun with in his 1982 remake, because the first time we meet Kurt Russell, he's playing chess and destroying the machine that beats him. And second, holy cats and kittens, kids, there are women in this one. Believe it or not, there's ladies present, because our main protagonist, Captain Patrick Hedry, played by Keith Tobey, needs a love interest.
I think it's Kenneth Tobey, isn't it?
I'm sorry, Kenneth Tobey. Yes, Kenneth Tobey. Thank you. He needs a love interest, or else how are you going to get the kids on dates to come see the movie?
That's right, because it has to be. Is this a kissing movie?
It is a kissing movie. It is a kissing movie, and it's a little bit adult. I mean, we get Margaret Sheridan as the brave and plucky Nikki, with whom we learn Captain Hedry has spent at least one night getting blackout drunk. He did, not her, not remembering anything he did, and then trying to put the moves on her, as as the kids say.
Yeah, and it's not clear whether he succeeded or not. She's sort of sassy about it.
She is, and she's like, well, maybe if you let me run this relationship.
Yeah, and there's a point at which she ties him up.
Yes, so this is a little bit PG-13 for 1951, but it's a horror movie. It's a scary movie, but so you got to have something for the ladies, for the date you're going to take.
Yeah, yeah, something else. That was kind of odd, I thought. Anyway, the call comes in that the famous Dr. Carrington, played by Robert Cornthwaite, and his team of scientists have found something near the North Pole that is messing with the magnetic field. So off the Air Force guys go, with Scotty the reporter and a team of sled dogs along for the airplane ride. Isn't that cute dogs? It's a real dogs in this movie flying in the airplane with them.
They're adorable dogs. And again, as we mentioned, sled dogs play a part of every version of this story.
Yeah.
And then comes the biggest departure from the novella. The monster, the thing, does not take over people at all in this movie. The monster remains largely intact. During the entire movie, it loses, bits and bobs. It loses an arm, and the arm starts moving all by itself. And this causes the scientists to freak out a little bit. But the monster itself, which is played by James Arness of Gunsmoke fame in a rubber suit, doesn't change very much at all. It's got 2 legs and 2 arms and a head, and it's clearly a guy in a suit.
A very large guy in a suit.
Yes.
And James Arness was a large guy.
And based on how he throws equipment around and lumber around and people around, a very strong monster. So it's physically a threat.
Instead of assimilating people, eating animals, and duplicating them, it grows its own offspring. We learned that it reproduces by putting seed pods, or whatever they are, down in the soil of the greenhouse. So it's a vegetable, essentially, in terms of reproduction. And that's joke's been made. It's like a super carrot putting its seeds down in the soil in the base's greenhouse and feeding on blood. Which it drains from a dog or dogs that have attacked it and been killed. And that's it. That's the monster.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a big guy in a rubber suit and little plant pods that are going to grow a new guy in a rubber suit, apparently.
Yeah. And now the idea that the humans think they have it trapped, and the fact is they don't have it trapped, is similar to the novel. Except they don't have one of their own trapped and aren't wondering what is wrong with them and which side is he on. They know they've got a monster trapped in the greenhouse. Eventually, they know there's only one way out, and they barricade the door. They have it trapped, or so they think.
Yeah. What is interesting is that the secondary protagonist, the lead scientist, is also doing the same thing because he thinks pursuit of knowledge trumps everything else. This is a new species, wiser than us, older than us, capable of teaching us so many things. So he wants to figure out how this thing operates. He steals some plasma and uses it to grow little seed pods with little aliens inside. What could possibly go wrong, Dirtglass?
Exactly.
And apparently they're growing up big and strong, and he's doing all of this horticulture of dangerous aliens without telling the military about it. He and the other scientists part company with the military, and that becomes the secondary but also very important conflict.
Yeah. Because if you don't
whether these scientists are idiots or actually preserving knowledge is a debate in the movie.
And one of the scientists, I think you'll hear it in a clip coming up, is a guy named Paul Frees, who's a voice actor from the period. And once you hear his voice, like, oh, I've heard that guy a million times. Yeah. I know who that guy is. He's one of those people that sounds like there's another person standing behind them, because the guy who's saying the things couldn't possibly have that voice.
Yeah, yeah.
The antagonist in the story is still the Thing. It's still James Arness in a rubber suit. But the secondary antagonist is this scientist who thinks that even if they're killed, even if they all die, it shouldn't matter. Because knowledge and the pursuit of knowledge are more important than anything, which plays right into the trope of the irresponsible, reckless, single-minded scientist who, invented the atom bomb and made the world a more dangerous place. And that is how the dramatic tension is created without people actually being transformed into monsters.
There's still conflict, yeah.
This is the substitute form of dramatic tension. It's a little bit weaker because you don't have people that you can't trust because they're monsters, but this is the substitute for the dramatic tension created by that in the novella.
So there is a monster. It is trapped in a room, but that monster is growing little babies, and the Air Force guys have to figure out a way to lure it out and kill it, and they do. Famously, this is a very famous scene. The dramatic tension is resolved. The guy gets the girl. Sorry for the spoiler on that one.
Yep.
Yeah, a couple people are killed, but not gobbled up and assimilated. The reporter reads his story back over the radio, which is repaired, by the way. You get to talk to the outside world. Mm-hmm. It's finally operating well enough for him to send his account to his editors and the worldwide press, who want to know what's going on, because all these people have been trapped up there incommunicado.
Yeah, and every time Scotty is asked, can I report this? Every time there's an advance in the story, the commander says, no, this is a military matter. You can't go spilling it everywhere. And he respects that because they're friends. But you got to give me a scoop. This turns out to be a big story. Got to get the scoop. There's also a General Fogarty who we never meet. He's never seen, but he's the man in command of all the military forces. And he keeps asking for updates and issuing orders over the radio that are about 12 hours too late. So they get orders in to protect the ship they found, protect it. Well, that's 12 hours too late because they already blowed it up by mistake.
And I feel like this is a little bit of comic relief.
Yeah.
Especially for an audience of former GIs in World War II watching this in 1951 saying, oh, yeah, generals always are 12 hours too late.
They have no idea what the hell's going on. They're always giving dumb orders.
They're sitting in their office and they don't even know, right?
Yeah.
So,
but it also very cleverly and intelligently plays to increase the tension, because every time a late order comes in, it seems to back up what the scientists want to do. But the situation has changed to the point where that order is dumb and dangerous now. Mm-hmm. So do your troops obey the order, even though they know it's wrong and late and dumb? And or do
they can't.
They go off on their own.
By the way, in this version, the ship did not crash in the ice millions of years ago or 100,000 years ago. It crashed a few days ago. Mm-hmm. So that means there's aliens out there, Driftglass.
There still are, Blue Gal.
Yeah. The scientists at the station saw this thing come down and go boom, and they assumed it was a meteor hitting the ice.
Yeah. So when the military guys show up with their dogs and whatnot and go to figure out what this thing is, they stand in a big circle around it. Again, a really nice shot in the movie. Yeah. And oh my God, it's a big circle. It's a flying saucer. And I think one of the soldiers says, we finally got one.
Yeah.
And that's when the action occurs. People are killed. The monster is 1950s version of terrifying, but it's a fairly radical departure from the original story.
Right. And in this 1951 version, there is no sense of paranoia among the men about which one of them is on whose side, because this thing just doesn't assimilate anybody. The tension is between the scientists and eventually just one scientist, Dr. Carrington, who is single-mindedly focused on the idea that the monster must survive because it can teach us so much. It's so wise.
It's been here. It'll come back again.
We'd better tell Captain.
I don't agree with you, Doctor. I think it far better if science rather than
Doctor,
the
are you
army.
sure this is the best thing?
This time, I'm sure we can communicate with it. We must. It's wiser than we are. It's our only chance to talk to it, to learn so many things.
Dr. Kering is
Surely
right.
you can understand that, Stern. Will you stand guard here with me tonight, Voorhees? And you, Lawrence?
Very clearly, Doctor.
Good. Stern, tell Dr. Auerbach and Dr. Olson what we've found. Ask them to come back and relieve us in the morning. And tell them, please, to confide in no one.
So the story becomes a clash between the military and the scientists. The military has the situation in hand now. Technically, this is, again, remember, not a military outpost, so the military's arrival and takeover are upsetting to the scientists. And the general pulling the strings keeps issuing orders that are far too late. So after the thing has gotten loose and is tearing the place apart and poses a real threat, the general's communique comes through. It's like, protect the body at all costs. Don't let anybody touch it, which is no longer possible and is now incredibly dangerous.
Yep. But the gist of the movie is that these civilians, well-intentioned, but not really knowing what the HE double toothpicks they're doing, need to get out of the way because this thing is dangerous. The military knows how to handle it, and by God, they're going to handle it. And they handle it with electricity. They melt the daylights out of that thing. They had tried to burn it, and that didn't work. Although the stunt work there was amazing. As we say, this is the scene of the special effects. It is a guy in a suit on fire in a room where they're throwing kerosene on it, and that causes the fire to spread.
Yeah. It's really remarkable. Seriously, if you don't see the movie, at least see that scene. There's a scene, in that scene, the monster on fire takes a swipe at Nikki holding a mattress in front of her, and it ignites.
Yeah.
I mean, they're literally throwing kerosene around in a small room with flammable shit around, and it looks really dangerous and very well done. However, they do eventually resolve the actual threat and kill the monster. Most everybody survives. Some are injured, and we'll get to see how the movie actually ends towards the end of this podcast. We promise. We'll bring you the ending of this exciting saga at the end of this podcast.
And now we get to John Carpenter's 1982 remake, which Driftglass and I also watched this weekend.
We did, yeah.
This is set in present-day 1982. And the film opens with a title reveal that is a direct homage to the 1951 film. It uses the same font and effect, except instead of opening on a blizzard, we open on a flying saucer spiraling in towards Earth. We then cut to a dog, a husky, out on the open snowfield running very fast. And we don't know why.
Yeah. In beautiful color.
Yeah.
Big white field, dog running across it. Very quickly, we learn that the dog is being chased by a helicopter and that a man on the copter is trying very hard to shoot the dog with a high-powered rifle, but he keeps missing.
This is very clever because in this version, the team of American civilians, no military in this one at all, at Outpost 31, does not discover the alien spacecraft or the original alien body themselves. Those discoveries are made by a Norwegian research team before the events of the film begin. Which,
again, very clever because the Norwegian helicopter circles the American research station in panic. It's firing wildly. They start lobbing grenades. The helicopter lands and the pilot pulls the pin on another grenade, but he drops it, which kills him and destroys the helicopter. The dog is now run up to the Americans and it's pawing them and licking their faces, going, save me from this lunatic. And he's an adorable doggy. And who wouldn't save him?
Yeah, you feel bad for the dog in the beginning of this movie that looks like they're trying to shoot him for sport.
Yeah, just like Sarah Palin, for God's sakes.
Oh, my gosh.
And the man with the rifle runs into camp. He's screaming something in Norwegian that nobody can understand. One of his shots wounds an American, and that does it. So one of the Americans fires back, killing the Norwegian with the rifle. And now we have the mystery that will propel the rest of the movie.
Yeah. What happened to those Norwegians?
Yeah.
Our introduction to our main protagonist, MacReady, played by Kurt Russell and his 1982 hair.
Yeah. Which
is pretty fabulous hair, but it is very 1982 also. Is him getting beat by a computer chess game. We talked about that. Yeah. MacReady retaliates against the computer. I think he calls it a cheating bitch. And pours what's left of his whiskey into the guts of the computer and then he shorts it out with the liquid. That's foreshadowing, kids.
Yeah.
Just in case you didn't know.
Foreshadowing. When MacReady and two others, Copper and Norris, fly to the destroyed Norwegian camp, they find the burned and ruined remains of the station, notes and videotapes documenting the Norwegian expedition, a grotesque, partially burned creature that appears to be a fusion of two different people, and evidence that the Norwegians had evacuated something from the ice.
Yep.
They bring the malformed body back to their own camp for study. Mistake
Big
number
mistake.
1. Big mistake. But they don't know. They don't know.
Yeah. Later, the Norwegians videotape leads MacReady and Copper to the Norwegian excavation site, where they find a big hole in the ice where the spacecraft had been buried. The remains of the excavation camp and confirmation that the Norwegians had uncovered an alien craft estimated to have been buried for roughly 100,000 years. Not millions of years, as in Campbell's original.
Now, obviously, this differs significantly from Who Goes There, the original novel, where the men at the station are the ones who excavate the spacecraft and recover the frozen alien body themselves. Campbell's characters begin the story at the very first human encounter with the thing. Carpenter's characters enter the story after another expedition has already lost a battle. The earlier Norwegian disaster is serving as a warning to the audience that something very bad is waiting for them.
Yeah. Now, from then on, the plot sticks pretty close to Campbell's original story. Mm-hmm. Figuring out the threat, the collapse of trust among the men as a monster that can look like any one of them hunts them in these claustrophobic spaces that are also dirty. And there's a storm raging outside. Communication with the outside world is cut off. We know that's essential to the plot. Mm-hmm. They lock up one of their own, the biologist, who figures out that this thing could take over the planet in a matter of months, because he starts smashing the radios and sabotaging their helicopter. And they're not sure what's going on with him. And just as in the 1938 book story version, while in captivity, the biologist is assimilated and nearly escapes.
Mm-hmm. Who knew Wilford Brimley could look so terrifying?
Yeah, young Wilford Brimley.
And grim. But the most striking difference between Campbell's novella, Who Goes There, and John Carpenter's The Thing isn't really the plot at all. The broad outlines are the same. It's the tone that's different. It's the worldview that's different, because the tone of the country itself had changed pretty radically between the two.
Mm-hmm. Campbell's story is fundamentally a product of the late 1930s. It's part of that old science fiction tradition of competent people solving difficult problems. Antarctica is dangerous. The alien is terrifying. The stakes couldn't be higher, Driftglass. And the men at the station are generally competent, disciplined, rational, and committed to the collective good. And I also assume they're all white.
Oh, yeah. Good assumption.
I think that's pretty obvious. Yeah.
But of course they argue and they suspect one another. They make mistakes. But underneath all of it is a basic assumption that intelligence and science and careful reasoning can eventually solve the problem. Even when paranoia reaches its peak, the characters are constantly devising tests and evaluating evidence and thinking their way through the crisis, trying to find ways to maintain trust with each other. The mood is tense, but the worldview is ultimately very optimistic.
Not in Carpenter's film, 1982. No. Mm-hmm. Carpenter's film comes from a very different America. It arrives after Vietnam, after Watergate, after the energy crisis, after years of declining trust in institutions and authority. The men at Outpost 31 are not the polished problem solvers of Campbell's story. They drink, they gamble, they play video games, they argue with each other, they smoke pot, they break equipment in frustration.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't bathe, Driftglass.
No. The place is grubby and it looks lived in. It reminds me, the Beach Ball Alien movie. The very first John Carpenter movie, A Dark Star.
Yeah.
A bunch of people with beards who are on each other's nerves who've been out way too long, and the whole thing just feels awful and bad. The station itself feels worn down before the alien ever arrives. Everything is dirtier. Everything is more exhausted. These aren't heroic explorers pushing back the frontier. They're workers at the end of the world stuck in a place they don't particularly want to be.
Part of that evidence comes from the look of the film itself. Carpenter and his production team deliberately avoided the clean, shiny science fiction aesthetic. The station is cluttered and cramped. It's dimly lit. The walls are stained. The machinery is half repaired. Nothing feels sleek or futuristic. It feels used and lived in.
Yeah, and the men all look like workers, not scientists in white lab coats, not heroes, just ordinary people trapped in a doomed and escalating situation. The movie is also much less confident about science itself. In Campbell's story, science is ultimately the solution. The tests are scientific, the analysis is scientific, the victory comes through reason and evidence and deduction, the scientific method.
Carpenter keeps all of those elements but takes away the confidence. Blair's computer simulation predicts the extinction of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
The scientists don't really understand the organism they're dealing with. The tests are completely improvised. Every new piece of knowledge seems to generate a fresh reason to panic.
Yeah. The knowledge that they gain doesn't bring any certainty. It just ups the tension. And nowhere is the difference between the two versions more obvious than in their endings. Campbell's novella ends with a sense of accomplishment. The survivors believe they've won. Humanity has been saved. Yay! The threat has been contained. The crisis is over, Blue Gal.
Yep. In the 1951 movie, the boy gets the girl.
That's right. He does. And they live happily ever after.
Yeah. Yay. Carpenter's film ends with two exhausted men sitting in the ruins of a burning station. Everyone else is dead. McCready and Childs, played by the terrific Keith David, who Carpenter will bring back when he makes They Live. These two guys don't trust each other. Neither one knows if the thing is still alive. Neither one knows if humanity is safe. They don't even know if either of them is still human.
Right.
And we don't know either.
No. All they can do, I believe McCready has had the good sense to keep a bottle with him. So I believe they have a bottle of whiskey to pass back and forth. But all they can do is sit there and wait to freeze to death, I guess. Which means this may be the very first horror film in history where the black guy doesn't die first.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really the difference between the two works in a nutshell. The novella asks whether intelligent, disciplined people can defeat an unimaginable threat, and ultimately answers, why, yes, of course they can.
Of course they can. But the movie asks whether human beings can trust one another long enough to survive an unimaginable threat. Yeah. But by the time the credits roll, it's not at all clear that human beings can trust each other to resolve a really big and dangerous threat. Now, and finally, we said we'd include Murray Leinster's 1945 novella, First Contact, and the radio adaptations, and a little bit of Project Hail Mary. But, honestly, the hour is a little bit late, and we're already running a little bit long. So not this time. Not this time.
Yeah. So, Driftglass, which of the two movies that we watched this weekend did you like better?
I liked the 1951.
What did you like about each one?
I liked the 1951 version better.
Yeah.
But it strayed so far from the novel. But I admire John Carpenter's version more because he really, first of all, the special effects are amazing. The puppet work is
for 1982 with no CGI.
Yeah,
puppets. It's incredible, and stop action activity. I mean, some of the stop action stuff is just out of this world.
And the fidelity to the original material was very good. It was very, very good. No, there was no hot girlfriend subplot. It was very much take those people from the 1938 novella and put them in 1982, where they're totally different people. They're exhausted. They're grubby. They're run down. They don't want to be there. They're smoking pot. They're armed. Yeah. They're a little bit like, what the fuck is happening? They have no idea what's happening around them.
Yeah.
And confused and dangerous and cynical.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell is incredibly cynical during this entire movie. He is Snake Plissken in this movie.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about anything or anybody, but he is the leader. And eventually he becomes a leader because I will blow this place up and kill everyone unless you do what I tell you.
In order to keep this from happening. Yeah.
So I admire
willing to
it.
take that risk. Yeah.
It's a good movie. I admire it. I enjoyed it. I would watch it again. But there's something about that 1951 ethos of, it's so campy a little bit.
Yeah.
Scientists don't know what they're doing. They're messing with things they should never understand, and the military sweeps in to fix it. It's exactly the opposite of my politics, mind you.
Yeah.
But when it comes to storytelling, I would give a B plus. Not give an A to both of them, but if you pinned me down and said which would you watch again, I'd probably watch the 51 again, as opposed to How about you?
Well, I thought that the set design in the John Carpenter one was really top notch.
Absolutely. Yep.
And you walk into these rooms that are on the, Antarctic space station. It is a station, scientific station outpost. It's filthy. It's cluttered, but that took a lot of time to think about how they wanted that to look.
That sure did.
And you look at the 1951 version, it's a canteen, it's an office. Yeah, they had to set up something that's sort of underground with some tracks and so forth to destroy the monster in a setting that's set up for the purpose of the text and the script. That was the one place they actually had to sort of set something up. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, the sets are nothing in that movie. They could be from any Superman movie, an airplane with the dogs on it. And I think the dogs are a big thing for me. Yeah. Because the dogs are cute. They're also an essential part of survival in the Arctic or in Alaska or wherever they're going to be. Mm-hmm. Sled dogs. But the dogs in the 1982 version start off the plot and are so essential to the plot of this movie.
True. Mm-hmm.
And animal lovers who want to see, dogs act in a movie are going to find that important. They really do. They're a very important character in the 1982 version.
Yes, they are.
And that poor dog at the beginning who's running away from men on a helicopter hunting him. Mm-hmm. And you learn in the movie how, it was kind of important that they do that. You learn why that happened. But at the beginning, you're like, this is just hunting a sled dog, a husky out in the wild for sport. How dare they? Mm-hmm. And you're glad that the husky makes it into the
American camp.
And is rescued and is treated right.
Of course.
And the dogs, they love the dogs. Mm-hmm. The dog gets to walk around the whole camp, which is another part of the plot you need to be aware of. Yeah. You get to walk around everybody, and everybody pets him. Yeah. And everybody interacts with him, and he gets to lick people. Yeah. And it's a big deal, right?
And the American who's wounded.
Yeah.
He's not killed, but he's wounded, shot in the leg, and it's stitched up because they do have, they have the they have medical know-how, etc. The dog walks under the table and brushes up against the guy's wound.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, there's clearly something going on. If you knew nothing about the short story or the 51 version, at the point where they start taking the dog's point of view, you start going, okay, something's going on here. Something weird's going on here.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you just said. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I did like the fact, obviously, because I'm a chick, I like the fact that there were women, and they were sassy women and smart women. Mm-hmm. There was no one who was dumb. There was no damsel in distress. Right. In terms of, I'm being attacked by a monster. Mm-hmm. They were part of the team. And I appreciated that about the 51 movie.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening, everybody. Science Fiction University is a project of DGBG Productions. You can support the show by donating via Patreon to our patreon.com/proleftpod account.
So, until next time.
I bring you a warning. Every one of you listening to my voice, tell the world. Tell this to everybody wherever they are. Watch the skies everywhere. Keep looking. Keep watching the skies.